Hey YouTube, this is Sandra. It's June 25th, 2014, uh, Wednesday, and I just finished watching Less of Sarah's video, which, in addition to thanking so many people for acknowledging her big accomplishment of reaching goal, she was also talking about, the loss of her surgeon, which I'd read about on Obesity Help. Speaking of, and that was very sweet. I guess I'm going to go to the conference. I wasn't going to, mostly because my schedule didn't really, I'd already scheduled some things for early August and I didn't think I could make it, but um, I've just been giving it a lot of thought, and I think it's going to be fun. I go to LA every month, but I'm never anywhere near Long Beach, which is, I think, where this is. So I'm going to have to make reservations. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. That'll be nice to get away for a couple days and get down there and see the vendors, and I'm looking forward to the conferences and meeting people who have gone through the same things I've gone through and maybe well ahead of me, and people who are just looking into the surgery, and of course some of you who've been contributing videos all along. It's really cool. I watched a video last night. Actually, no, I watched it this morning, but it was done last night. I watched the Renew show, which featured J Mac VSG, and I've been watching his videos since he started posting them again, which is fairly recently, and he really pumped me up in terms of, number one, he's just got fantastic energy, but secondly, mostly because it was between him and Pete. I was just really moved to dig deeper at the gym, and I really like that. I like trying to push myself in some ways, and I don't mind somebody else pushing me. I mean, I can always push back, right? So I certainly don't mind being pushed. He mentioned something, there was a word wreckage that he used, and I don't know what it was about that word. I mean, let's face it, it's a pretty high drama word, but it certainly did touch something in me. And I guess wreckage can take many different forms. In the context of how I first kind of took it in, I thought about, I'm sorry, I made a few notes here, and I just wanted to kind of, I guess I associated it with the wreckage in me emotionally left by some of the shame I experienced in for pretty much my entire life, having been to one degree or another an overweight person. And I'll say my entire life, because even when I was quite young and I was sent to, God, what was that? Let's see, I think it wasn't it. The first diet I remember was in 6th grade, and it was the Stillman diet, which was pretty similar to Atkins. I don't know how they differed, but they were at the same time. This is the first run of Atkins, and the Stillman diet was super similar. So I remember in 6th grade I was placed on that, and coming back to school, having people comment on how much better I looked and so forth. And I don't think before then I'd really had much awareness of the fact that I was different from other people. And I think that's really the mark that weight being large leaves on you. And of course, many other circumstances in life can leave you with that feeling as well. But once you feel that you're different from other people, and especially when in the case of weight loss, I mean, you can be different from other people in a way that maybe only you know, because maybe it's a family secret. Maybe it's just a secret that you know about. Maybe it's something that happened to you that, again, is kind of squelched by people. But if you have a physical residual associated with however it is that you feel like you are not like the mass of men, and when it's pointed out to you, and if you're ridiculed for it, and the shame that you develop and the insecurities that may go along with, or maybe conversely, the kind of FU attitude towards life you may develop. That to me is the wreckage I'm thinking about, I guess, foremost. It hits me every so often, I guess, when I get on a plane and I no longer have, I don't use an extender anymore, but I do remember times when there were comments made to my face when I was very large. This is back when I was over 300 pounds. People not wanting to sit next to me. I know what the comments are. I don't think it's going to benefit anybody else to hear them, to be honest. I don't really mind revisiting them. But even though I'm so much smaller than I used to be, thinking about the comments pretty much takes me right back there. And there were a couple of things that I feel like I haven't seen in the videos that I've watched. A couple areas of discussion that I guess I want to throw out on a table, and for the few of you who subscribe. Oh, what can I say? It's my venue. It's my only venue. For the few of you who subscribe, I guess I'm curious what your take is on these things. Number one, I'm going to keep an eye on this. All right, 6 minutes. And I don't know that this happened to guys as much as girls. And this has happened to women. Now, I'm 53, almost. I'll be 54 in a few months. And I am not saying this to hurt anybody or to bring anything up, but I ran into it with a number of my female friends. And I don't know how it happens now. I don't have kids. So although I did work with some kids that were at one time in foster care. And I don't know that this was an issue then. I think there were greater issues than weight that they were dealing with. But being weighed by, and I'll just say your parents, your caretakers, whoever the hell you grew up under. I know that in my case, I think that contributed a huge degree to my wreckage. I mean, it wasn't enough that I faced enough obstacles and difficulties with the people who were not part of my family or immediate friends, people who are, kind of outside of those immediate circles. But as a young girl in the 60s and early and 70s, I was born in 1960. So, until I was 18 and out of the house, my parents, were looking out for me. They put me through good schools. I don't think I was spoiled in a rich girl sense, but I certainly had everything I needed. Absolutely. And, we had a good life. But underneath it all, there were these regular weigh-ins, and I don't think they were every day. It seems to me it was like once a week, and I just remember, days of not eating before then because I'd eaten too much the other days. And my dad sometimes watches these videos, and I don't say any of this to hurt anyone. This is more about, I know my parents. God, is this a therapy session? What the hell? I know my parents wanted me to avoid being pudgy and fat. Both of my parents are soft-bodied people. I don't mean they're huge or fat, but they had their own weight challenges. And they saw this young girl who could eat a lot. I don't know where it came from, but I must have been born with a real big stomach. I don't know, but I could eat, and I wanted to eat a lot more than my friends. Maybe some of it stems from my parents' food issues. I don't know. But I know that they didn't want me to grow up big. I think they saw the problems with that. And just like any parent wants to prevent their kid from harm, they wanted to rein it in, and they worked with the tools and information they had, which is a lot different than it is today. But I remember being weighed. I remember the feeling of, you know, how, and I think I still have this when I get on this scale now. I keep thinking I need to be on the scale every day, but the truth is like so many of you, there's such a big emotional reaction when when the scale doesn't go in the direction you think it should be going. And I feel like it takes me right back to those days when I get on this scale, and I felt like it determined how much I was loved, and how much I was worth, or how little I was worth. I remember there were times when the scale was higher and I would have to call friends and tell them I couldn't. I had to cancel out plans that I'd made with them when I was young, because my parents, that it was a punishment for my scale being higher. I mean, I could have been, scheduled to go do something physically active with a friend, which maybe would have helped. But, I had to call and cancel because I'd gained weight. And I don't know how deeply really I want to explore it, but what I found interesting was, this was my own personal drama that I grew up with. And I have run into other friends, and at some point, as we became good friends, I remember somehow it would come up and they'd say, "Yeah, me too." And I thought it only happened to me. And God knows greater shame and greater dramas have been dropped down on people, but that was the one I had. And it just seemed like every time I got on a scale, it was a measure of my worth. And that really goes down deep to your core. And then when you layer upon it, not being able to find cute clothes, and reactions from other people, or any kind of, and I don't think I was really subject to too much ridicule, or I was oblivious to it. That could be quite possible. I was always had my head in a book. It's quite possible. Anyway, I've been thinking about that when he said wreckage, because I feel like, there are some holes in my emotional makeup that were probably created decades ago. And maybe in trying to fill them up, I've filled them the wrong way. So that's number one. All right, 2 minutes left. Well, I don't think it's really enough to address the other topic that I feel like I haven't seen much discussion of on YouTube. So I'm going to leave it at that. But anyway, I really enjoy, I just posted an article on Facebook that said how your life is shortened if you watch 3 hours or more of TV. And I'm going to assume Facebook applies there too. So, excuse me, not Facebook, but YouTube. So that probably leaves me absolutely doomed. You guys have a good week. Bye.